Greetings. My name is Michael Miller, and this is a Michael Miller Pilates YouTube live video broadcast out to you because you're watching. Thank you for that. Greetings. It's been a while that since I've been on YouTube, but this is still a broadcast, a Michael Miller Pilates YouTube live broadcast out to you because you're watching. Thank you. Hopefully you're a Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliate, which gives you some rights to use my trademark. And if not that, certainly a core new course student because you're aware of core new tension in the body and how that influences biology's attempt to accomplish the physics, to move through space and survive. So I'm here because my Facebook page no longer has a live option. And here I'm just trying to come here to accomplish the intent of broadcasting without wondering why or worrying about the fact that live doesn't show up as a button on my Facebook right now. Another reason why I encourage you as a broadcaster to maintain ability to broadcast across multiple channels. And ideally, that you control your own content. So if we were on Facebook, I'd have titles already listed that I'm talking about, and this is the first one, and the title is Your Content Matters. Meaning, what you do, what you say, what you express, what you record, what you write, all of your creative output is content that you can share if you wish, and ideally, in my point of view, get remuneration for, get paid for, by those who appreciate whatever it is you're broadcasting about Pilates. That's my only thing. And so I mentioned this last time. It's not Michael Miller Pilates on Facebook. It's Michael Miller, and that's where my videos, I think, still are. I mentioned last time there's a website called Udemy.com. Udemy.com. And it's a place to learn anything. But moreover, it's also a place for you to put what you have to share or to teach out there and be paid for. You know, there's a financial basis for the subjects that you teach. And so I would say, go check that out, and instead of being a payer for whatever it is you want to learn about, realize that it's content that has value in the marketplace. So if you're Disney and you own a big film franchise, right? It's the content, it's access to that content that matters. So create your content, and in this way, when I do YouTube Live, it creates a file that I feel I have much more control over and more downloadable than when it's on Facebook. So you never know when you get squeezed in a direction that ends up to be in your advantage. So that was my title number one was, and this is about you surviving as a Pilates instructor, realize that your content matters. And to the extent that you make recordings or writings of your work, of your output in whatever subject, I care about Pilates, and I hope that's why you're listening to me. And to survive as a Pilates instructor and develop an independent and autonomous and control over your material, all of those things matter. Check out Udemy and perhaps coordinate it with what you're already doing on YouTube or on Facebook or whatever, right? But in that regard, if you want to survive as an instructor, I think it's important that whomever values your instruction has access to it and a means to pay you for it. And the more direct control you have over that means, the better. Right? All right. So, number 2. I think I've got 4 topics today. Number 2. Number 2 is write it down. Write it down. Write it down. Write it down. Because you take a huge step from the simulation that's running in your head into the real world and helping your simulation make the real world the way you want it is to write it down. And I've said this before, so I'm not saying anything new. When you write down top to bottom, but at the bottom of a sheet, when you turn it over, start at the bottom of that sheet and work towards the bottom, and maintain a continuous thread of content that doesn't go just from top of page to bottom of page, but has a thread of continuity when you take notes this way. You may think that's silly or way too simple. But a long time ago, I held a job in a hotel and was a polyvalent, which means handyman. And so people came to me to have things done, like get gloves for the dishwashers and that stands out as a big one. But when they came to me, it was funny because the more they got to know me, the more they knew that I always had this pad of paper, a pad of paper, in the back of my pocket, and that I would write stuff down as it came to me because I filtered a lot of things in the polyvalent job that I had. You make a huge step in whatever way you write something down, and if you write it down in a way that allows you to keep track of it sequentially, how you wrote it down, I wonder if detectives do it that way. So my message, like 2-3 worders, write it down. And why write it down? Well, not only to have it come from your imagination into the reality of a word of ink on paper, but to capture the sequence. Right? Capture the sequence. That makes me want to talk about hermit.dot, which is a template that allows you to run a log and style tag by category and then filter by that category so that you can capture what you said to someone or about something in the order that you said it, time and date, exclusively to that category. but it never took off. And anymore, I just write down notes on paper before my reformer workout for what I'm coming here to talk to you about. And it's been so great, and I feel so privileged to have communicated so much over Facebook. And if I establish some kind of quota, or even if somebody kind of complained, all of that would just be an indication that in some way my broadcast was having an impact. Hopefully with you is what matters. Number three. Number three is right out of the blue, in a way. Not out of the blue, but the title for number three is MMP Convention Plans. Now, hopefully you know that MMP means Michael Miller Pilates, which I look at as a brand of Pilates that has a specific view of Pilates and takes its legitimacy based off of that view. That there's, in essence, to the original work of Joseph Pilates, and you can experience that by combining his definition of his method, his promise of what you get as a result of doing his method, and the choreography of his method. So convention plans. If you're watching, you wrote and you said, hey, I want to come to this and I want to know whether or not I have to register, and do I get a certificate at the end. So now, the Michael Miller Pilates always meets at the same place at the same time every year, to the minute, because it's Eagle's Nest, which is Lost Gulch Overlook on a map, right up west of Boulder, Colorado, on the summer solstice. And last year it was like at 10:27 at night, and in the middle of a high altitude lightning storm. So it was no surprise that I was the only one there. And it was a great experience at the Hotel Boulderado after, for having been so much in nature and then come back to so much culture and civilization. So I'm thinking, yes, you have to register by May 31st, 2018, in order to be assured a certificate. I think that's what you asked for, of attendance if you show up, I guess. Or I guess I can mail it to you if, so many things. But if you want something in paper and ink that says you attended, I would figure 21 days is a good lead period to knowing who is showing up and being able to get your certificate printed. I don't know, there's a lot to that. And so if this is the last broadcast I get to make, show up at Lost Gulch Overlook, just straight up the 40th parallel at Boulder, and it's about 6 miles, and it's at 4:07 in the morning, Rocky Mountain time. So it's a sunrise this year, which means that after that event, probably come back down the mountain and go to breakfast. And that's a hard pick these days, because I think it would normally be the Boulderado, but I don't know how early they open. And always the Village Coffee Shop is a great place to experience breakfast in Boulder, and the Cup on Broadway, and not Broadway, on Pearl and 15th is also a shining spot of human activity at that time of morning. So the MMP, the Michael Miller Pilates Convention, same time, same place, whether I'm there or not. And the key that I would be after is a picture of yourself out there at Lost Gulch Overlook. But don't go too far out on the rock, and don't go in bad weather, and meet up at the designated after solstice gathering point, which historically is always the Hotel Boulderado. So you're safe in going there because it's a good experience whether anybody else shows up or not. I'm also thinking that instead of trying to be the host of the activity because I only have a personal studio, that I would encourage you coming to the event to just Google Pilates studios along the Front Range and ask them how you might participate in their studio as a private or a mat, and more importantly, ask them if they'd be interested in hosting a workshop that you would want to provide when you got here. Help pay for your trip and make your presence the benefit of anybody who is interested in what you have to teach. And you could easily come in and offer a workshop in Michael Miller Pilates, because Pilates goes back a long way in this town, and there are a lot of aristocratic roots involved. Mine started in 1981 when Valentinos told me about Pilates and I bought the book. In 82, Stefan showed up and picked Deborah and somebody to teach, and when they moved on, I was the student they asked to take over the teaching. 82. So in that regard, check out the Pilates community in Boulder, because it's very rich and it's very deep. And I'm not sure what kind of a greeting you'll get if you offer to come in and teach Michael Miller Pilates, but I'm sure you're interested in something else beyond that, or besides that, that one of the studios locally might be interested in hosting to their tribe, right? So that's a couple of approaches to that. The convention. So early, and someone actually knows what they want, and they want to know what it's about, and that's a long way away. But we know when and we know where, and ideally I'll be there, and if not, take at least a picture of yourself in that location. And to me, what does that mean? What does that mean to you if you want to come? It scares me. What does it mean? My hope would mean that the meaning of the event, both in the timing of it and the rest of the meaning of it, matters enough that you want to come and convene with other like-spirited, minded human beings. And maybe not. Maybe it's just that you want to come alone. It's a thing that just matters to you all by itself. Because this year, 2017, and especially was such a year of how much the Michael Miller Pilates convention is attached to a date and time for a reason. And the reason it's attached to the solstice is because everyone I ever met in person that met Joseph Pilates in person always got around to saying that he was a survivor. And it usually meant more to the person saying it than they were usually acknowledged in understanding what that meant. But Joseph Pilates was a survivor. And the whole Inca Empire in South America took the timing of its crops that it relied on for survival from its observation of the sun and the moons of the world going by at Machu Picchu. And so, in the observation of when the change in the physical bodies occurred in identifying the solstice, it was a timing, a key timing aspect to the survival of a whole culture based on when to plant the crops. You get that? It's a survival thing. And of course, Michael Miller Pilates talks about spirit, body, mind, and spirit. And spirit is the capacity to listen, to observe, to pay attention, to concentrate. It's a point of view of Pilates that comes straight from Joseph Pilates. And for me, it points to an experience I reach for as an instructor when I have a student, and as a teacher, me to you, thinking, which was what I'm doing here, talking to you. It's a thinking thing. As soon as it turns into instruction, where it's do this, do that, do this, place this, do this, wherever an action can happen based on your cueing, that's instructing. You knew that already though, right? All right, so, and this is an in-passing title. It was number 4, and it has more to do with yesterday, and 1 times 2 times 3 times 7 equals what? And the equals is equals learning. So it's not about the numbers themselves. It's 1 times, it's just an exposure. Twice is coincidence, but it's something familiar in the sense that it happened a second time. And 3rd time is way more than that. It's precedent, right? And it's the whole notion of learning through repeated exposure that the research in California University comes out 7 times is the exposure to a subject you want in order to learn something. 7 times. So we talked about the carousel and repeated exposure to something in order to learn something, and how if there is no attention, so the title of number 4 is, if there is no attention, can there be any memory? I mean, can you remember something where you weren't present in the process or in the moment? To some extent, right? So, no attention, no memory is the question mark. And I don't know, it certainly seems that to remember something, the more present you are in what you're trying to remember, the longer the imprint that makes. And that's just me, and I think I have a very bad memory and wish I had a better one. But the things that I remember the most, it seems I was most present for in the moment of the thing I'm remembering, or the memory itself. Okay? And then, okay. Number 5, last one, is ribs to buttocks. Ribs to buttocks. and what that means. And how that means holding a tube smoothly rather than crimping it in a bad crimp, right? The whole target of uniform usage to fulfill Joe's promise of contrology develops the body uniformly, the whole notion of it takes whole body effort to get the result we're after, means that ribs to buttocks is a way of maintaining the integrity of the tube of your body. And ribs to buttocks is a way of maintaining the integrity between the two endpoints and not having it break into a crimp. Because if you let go your ribs, which means to me the transverse that connects them like a canopy and pulls them down like a canopy, you can't maintain the uniform engagement you're after throughout the body. Now, to teach that, it's a great place to teach it on the Cadillac in the exercise called the tower, where you're on your back, your hands are pushing out on vertical bars, and your feet are in a Pilates V, metatarsals on the bar, sprung from below, two support chains from above. Don't do this without supervision if you've never done it before. The point being that there, you're putting the body in tension with the spring to the metatarsals and therefore the rest of the body back to the shoulders. And your anchor point is the shoulders, and the push out from the shoulders is a stabilization of this energy at the shoulder girdle. The rotation of the shoulders, just like the legs turn down from a complete split to stand straight, the arms go up and push out through the bars, and the key is not to desert the rotational dynamic at the shoulders, and to keep that rotational dynamic connected from your ribs to your buttocks. And that's the title of this that's the subject of this title. The last subject of my broadcast is ribs to buttocks. And understanding how ribs to buttocks, you can find it in a lot of different ways, and you are certainly looking for it in the shoulder bridge. See, the shoulder bridge isn't about just going up and down in your hips, right? The shoulder bridge is about being eccentric in your body, putting tension in your body, and see, I don't know how to even think about it. That would seem, that's so unlevel to me. And it's bugging me. Maybe if I do it that way. And see, that's a level sitting on the pole above Cornu, and supposedly that's level. Ribs to buttocks really matters. Now, if you know Michael Miller Pilates well enough, you know that when you establish the connection of ribs to buttocks, you're creating Cornu tension between the hips and the shoulders. And so in shoulder bridge, when you're rolling down, you're putting rotational dynamic at your ears, the end point at your ears. You're creating the end point from the rotational dynamic you're capable of in your body. And off of that, from the sternum down, is this release that goes from a crease of sternum to ribs staying in to maintain their connection to the axis at the hips. Now, shoulder bridge is one thing, and tower is certainly a fun way, a very sensational way to work on that release of the ribs away, of making the canopy engagement of the rib cage. Because what brought me to all this is doing the upstretch on the reformer. In the long stretch series, there's the long stretch where you're, 5 points on a line. And you know what that means, right? And then there's the upstretch where your head's down, you roll forward, and you roll up through your body to where you're up here, and it's not until you're up here that you open at the hip, coming straight, rounding up, and then taking all of that out. It's a very difficult exercise to do, for me, to do and to teach. And yet, this one instructor comes to mind who says, oh, I never have a problem with that. I just tell them they're in this box and they have to stay in the box when they go up. And I have since used that and found success with it. See? So, in the upstretch, the whole idea of the upstretch is not to do it with a flat back. The whole idea with the upstretch is to do the same thing you do in the semicircle, which is run a decompressive undulation of your spine through your body. Run a decompressive undulation of your spine through your body by the way you engage your body. All right, so if I lose my ability to do YouTube, the next thing I would go is to Udemy in the hopes that I could get my recordings compacted into a structure that could be offered as a course where I would actually get direct revenue from the people that took the course. Even if that course is only a daily reflection on your whimsical look at the world. You know what I'm saying? Let it be whatever moves you to make it. Just try to put up a toll meter for those who seek not only to embrace what you have to say, but remunerate you for the value they find in you having said it. Because it takes some effort. Write it down. That's as simple as it is, and how to go through the notebook. And as profound as it is, profound meaning right down at where the bottom is, to where your simulation that's going on, what you want to make real to the point that you write it down, that's a huge part of making it real, just writing it down. And in writing it down, the way you write it down, the more you capture the sequence of what you write down, you're closer to the reality of what you're writing down. So MMP convention, you know where, you know when, You can just search the web for all the announcements on previous years for iceberg data, which means stuff that lies below the surface. I'm thrilled and honored that you're thinking about coming, and I hope to be here to greet you, and if everything works out, to give a certificate for you of attendance, I think is what you're looking for. So, no attention, no memory. And ribs to buttocks is something that you struggle to achieve the connection in order to run a decompressive undulation through your body, through your spine. Decompressive yet. And for me, in my terminology, that comes from core new tension, embracing core new tension. So it's weird and a little unnerving not to get to do the regular Facebook Live broadcast. I hopefully just overrode their limit of whatever you can broadcast and how long you can talk. And if it's a censorship in some kind, well, you know, when you understand the point of view, you know, it sets you free. At least that's what I've been told. And I don't mean that in any huge broad way, other than remember, my context in all my training is toward, as a teacher, because we're talking and we're thinking, to help you survive as a Pilates instructor. And the instructor provides instructions, which are things like go do something, rather than act as a teacher and go explain something. You know, the doing is in the moment, and it's in the embrace of the moment that seems to be the subject of what we're talking about, or what I'm talking about, and what I think you're listening about. And so probably, you know, a certificate of attendance, or being a licensed affiliate, something like that. You know, do you want a certificate with Cornu on it? Do you care if Cornu's on the certificate? Now I'm going to try to post this to Facebook, and we'll see if you're a Facebook viewer, and we're able to watch this off of YouTube. Right? In whatever event, this was my effort today to communicate about those ideas, and I thought those were some pretty strong points about surviving as a Pilates instructor, establishing an income stream for yourself that you control, and then leave that as a legacy that's in place when you're not in a position to broadcast live, because live can't live forever. Read between the lines, see behind the curtain, add two and two, think for yourself. I guess that means direct your own thinking. And as always, I wish you Geist. Geist. That's lightning. Geist.